Welcome back, everyone. We're stepping into the unknown with the creepiest, unexplained events you'll ever hear. These stories are true, pulled from real accounts, and they'll leave you with more questions than answers. These are the kinds of mysteries that keep you up at night. The people who experience them, they're still searching for explanations years later. Our first story takes us deep into the Smoky Mountains of Tennessee, during the crisp, golden days of fall in 2017. A young woman named Clara, an experienced hiker in her late 20s, set out alone on a familiar trail, the kind of path where pine needles carpet the ground and the morning fog clings to the mountaintops like a veil. Clara wasn't reckless. She knew the trails like the back of her hand, had hiked them since she was a teenager. She was cautious, prepared, and always told someone where she'd be. This time was no different. She told her family she'd be back by evening. She packed light, a water bottle, a trail map, a small first aid kit, and a whistle for emergencies. When search teams found her beat-up red hatchback parked at the trailhead, the doors were locked, her wallet and keys inside. Everything in perfect order. But Clara never returned. By that night, when she failed to check in, alarms went up. Within hours, a massive search was underway. Hundreds of volunteers, park rangers, tracking dogs, helicopters sweeping overhead. The trail she'd chosen was a gentle 5-mile loop. No cliffs, no fast rivers, no treacherous terrain. It was considered safe, family-friendly, the kind of trail where people bring kids. Clara had no reason to stray. On the third day of the search, her backpack was found, a mile into the loop, propped gently against the base of a tree. Inside, her map still folded, her water bottle full, the first aid kit untouched. No torn fabric, no blood, no tracks leading away from the spot. It was like she'd stepped out of her skin and disappeared. The weeks dragged on, search parties thinned out, the weather grew colder, no sign of Clara. Her family refused to give up. They plastered her face across missing persons posters, social media campaigns, even local news. They begged for clues, but the forest gave nothing back. The Smoky Mountains have seen disappearances before, falls, bear attacks, hypothermia. But Clara's case didn't fit. She was healthy, careful, and on a well-trodden trail in broad daylight. There was no evidence of anything. Tracking dogs lost her scent at the backpack. It was as if she'd vanished mid-step, leaving behind only silence. Then almost a year later, in the fall of 2018, a ranger on routine patrol in a remote section of the park, nearly 5 miles from Clara's trail, spotted something odd. A bright blue windbreaker, neatly folded over the branch of a tree. The same jacket Clara had been wearing the day she disappeared. The fabric was clean. No dirt, no damage, no blood. Like it had been placed there deliberately. What's worse, that area had been searched multiple times during the initial rescue effort. Rangers were stunned. They bagged the jacket and sent it for testing, but it came back with no trace of Clara's DNA. Her family confirmed it was hers, but the science said otherwise. Then, the phone started acting up. Clara's cell phone, which had been left in her car, locked and powered off, began receiving text messages months after the jacket was found. All the messages said the same thing. "I'm okay. Don't look for me." The texts were sent from somewhere deep in the mountains, in a known dead zone with no signal coverage. Authorities couldn't trace the origin. Some messages came in the middle of the night, others during the day. Always the same words. Clara's sister tried replying, "Where are you?" But after a week, the messages stopped. Locals began whispering, old stories resurfacing, tales of people lost in the woods, strange lights, voices in the trees. Some believe the mountains take people, that once you're chosen, you don't come back. Clara's case remains open. No suspects, no remains, just a jacket, some texts, and the cold, enduring silence of the Smoky Mountains. Somewhere out there, something knows what happened, but the forest isn't telling. Our second story takes us to a quiet neighborhood in Westfield, New Jersey, where a beautiful colonial home became the center of one of the most unnerving real-life mysteries in modern suburban history. In June of 2014, Derek and Maria Broadus were finalizing their move into a dream home. a 6-bedroom house at 657 Boulevard, nestled in a wealthy, peaceful community. The house was spacious, elegant, perfect for raising their 3 children. But just days after they closed on the property, before they had even moved in, they received a letter in the mailbox. It wasn't a welcome note, it wasn't junk, it was handwritten, and it began like this. Dearest new neighbor at 657 Boulevard, allow me to welcome you to the neighborhood. It seemed friendly at first, but as Derek read on, his stomach dropped. The writer, who signed only as The Watcher, claimed that the house had been the subject of their family's obsession for decades, that they had been watching the house for generations, and now they were watching them. 657 Boulevard has been the subject of my family for decades now, the letter read. I have been put in charge of watching and waiting for its second coming. My grandfather watched the house in the 1920s, and my father watched it in the 1960s. It is now my time. The letter went on to describe details no outsider should have known. The color of the couple's car, the names of their children, details only visible from close observation. The Watcher even asked, "Have you found out what's in the walls yet? I am pleased to know your names now, and the name of the young blood you have brought to me." Derek was horrified. He called the police immediately. Over the following weeks, more letters arrived, each one more disturbing. It has been years and years since the young blood ruled the hallways of the house. Have you found all the secrets it holds? The Broadduses delayed moving in. They installed cameras, hired private investigators, and even reached out to FBI profilers. But the letters kept coming. No fingerprints, no DNA, no return address. The Watcher knew everything. When they came to visit, where they were putting furniture, even that they had been speaking to contractors. I see already that you have flooded 657 Boulevard with contractors so that you can destroy the house as it was supposed to be. One letter read. It became clear, whoever was writing these was watching the house constantly, but no one saw them. Some neighbors were questioned. No one stood out. Some said it was a hoax. Others thought it was a deranged local, but no suspect was ever arrested. The Broadduses were never able to live in the house. They tried to sell it, even took legal action against the previous owners, claiming they must have known something. The community turned on them. Some accused them of fabricating the whole thing, even as the letters continued. Eventually, they sold the house at a loss, but the letters didn't stop. Even new owners reportedly received notes, though fewer. The identity of the Watcher has never been revealed. Was it a stalker, a neighbor, a family member from the past, or something far older? Something that really had been watching since the 1920s, bound to the house like a curse? All we know is this: 657 Boulevard was supposed to be a dream home, but for the Broaddus family, it became a nightmare. This story comes from northern Washington state, near the Canadian border. A vast stretch of forest land where the trees are thick, the trails are old, and the silence feels like it's listening. In October 2015, a man named Daniel, 34 years old and recently divorced, decided to take some time off the grid. He was a wildlife photographer, used to spending days, even weeks, alone in the backcountry. He left a note for his brother. Going out for a week, same spot as last spring. He packed his gear, plenty of food and his camera equipment, and set out for a remote section of Okanogan National Forest. He was expected back by the following Saturday, but he didn't return. After 2 days of silence, his brother contacted the authorities. Search teams were mobilized. The area Daniel had planned to visit was rugged but navigable. He'd hiked it many times. Still, days passed. No sign of him. Until day 5, when rangers found his campsite. His tent was pitched. His fire pit had ashes, still cold. His gear was organized neatly, and his backpack was propped up against a log. But Daniel was gone. His camera, strangely, was missing. They searched for over a week. Helicopters scanned the treetops. Dogs swept the forest. But there was no trace. Not a footprint, not a broken branch. He had simply vanished. A month later, as snowfall began to blanket the region, the search was called off. Daniel's family mourned. He was declared legally dead by the end of the year. But then, the real mystery began. Nearly 3 years later, in August 2018, a group of hikers came across an old wooden cabin deep in the forest. So deep it wasn't on any maps. Its wood was weathered and gray, like it had stood for 100 years. The windows were blacked out. The door was chained shut. They reported it to rangers, who visited the site a few days later. When they broke the lock and entered, they found something they couldn't explain. Inside the cabin were dozens of photographs, printed, developed, and neatly pinned to the walls. Wildlife shots, a bear near a stream, a crow mid-flight, a mountain lion caught in moonlight, and in the corner of the cabin, Daniel's camera. It was still functional. The rangers removed the SD card and turned it over to the sheriff's department. When they reviewed the images on the card, they found the same wildlife photos, and at the very end, a photo of Daniel. His face was gaunt, eyes wide, dirt smudged across his skin. Behind him, visible just over his shoulder, was the cabin wall, covered in the very same photos. The timestamp on the photo? August 17th, 2018. The same week the hikers found the cabin. He had taken that photo days before they arrived, but Daniel was gone. The cabin was empty. No signs of recent life, no fingerprints. A forensic team analyzed the structure. The wood was decades old. The foundation hadn't been touched in years. There was no logical way Daniel could have built it, lived in it, or vanished from it in the time between his disappearance and the hikers' discovery. And then came the final detail. On the back of one of the photographs, a crow in the trees, someone had written in shaky block letters, "Don't stay after dark." Daniel was never found. His body was never recovered. Some believe he was alive for those 3 years, trapped perhaps in a place that exists on the edge of our own, a place where time doesn't work the way it should. Others say the cabin has always been there, waiting, and Daniel simply wandered too far. Our next story takes place in Brooklyn, New York, in the fall of 2019. A woman named Allie, 29, had just moved into a small apartment building on a quiet street in Park Slope. The building was old but charming, classic red brick with ivy crawling up the walls, 4 floors, no elevator. Allie was recently single, newly promoted at her publishing job, and finally living alone for the first time in her life. Her unit, 3E, was modest but cozy. Hardwood floors, creaky radiator, a narrow kitchen with just enough room to cook. Across the hall was apartment 3F, with its door always shut. She never saw anyone go in or out. For the first week, everything was normal. But then, the notes began. They started small, a folded post-it stuck to her door. "Please stop making noise after 10 p.m. Allie was confused. She wasn't loud. She didn't have guests. She barely played music. But she shrugged it off. Maybe the walls were thin. A few days later, another note. "The light from your bathroom shines under my door. Please keep it off after midnight." The tone was passive-aggressive, no signature. Allie felt a little uneasy. She wrote a polite note back and slipped it under 3F's door. No response. That night, around 1 a.m., she heard scratching. Not mice, not pipes. It was coming from the other side of the hallway wall, right where 3F shared a border with her bedroom. The sound was slow, deliberate, like fingernails dragging down plaster. She got out of bed and opened her door. The hallway was empty. 3F's door was shut, same as always. The next morning, another note. "I don't like when you check the hallway. Please stop." That night, Allie didn't sleep. She sat on her bed, lights off, staring at her door. At exactly 2:13 a.m., there was a single knock. Not loud, not rushed, just one. She didn't answer. She didn't breathe. She moved out 2 weeks later, but not before one final incident. Allie had become obsessed with learning who lived in 3F. She asked the super, who looked confused. "Nobody's lived there since 2015, he said. "I have notes. I've heard them," she said. The super pulled out his key ring and unlocked the door to 3F. The unit was empty. Dust covered everything. The floorboards creaked like they hadn't felt footsteps in years. The bathroom mirror was cracked, the sink dry, but on the far wall, written faintly in pencil, "Stop watching me." Allie moved across town the next day. She never figured out who or what and was leaving the notes. Sometimes she wonders if she had been living across the hall from something that had never left, or worse, something that had never been alive to begin with.